Welcome to another lesson. In the previous lesson, we saw a few uses of the subjunctive and the indicative tense, and then we saw that we can use them to express either objectivity or subjectivity, and we also saw some wonderful things about the subjunctive. Now, we would focus on the subjunctive. We learn how to conjugate them, and this is another video on the subjunctive. You would be able to turn to your pages, your book, Exploraciones, on the pages numbers 51 and 52 for a few more examples, if you like. The objectives of this video is to talk about the conjugation of regular verbs in the subjunctive. We'll also look at irregular verbs in the subjunctive mode. Now, let's start. We have the general rule for conjugating verbs in the subjunctive, which is that you have to put the verb in the yo form of the present indicative tense. And then you take away the O and you add some endings. For regular verbs, we have examples: charlar, aprender, decidir. Now, what happens is that you'd see that we have some color coding going on. So in the previous slide, we saw that you take the form yo while the verb is still in the present indicative tense. You remove the O, and then you'd have to add some endings which go contrary to the structure or how the original verb is. Now, that is the reason for the color combination or the color coding. The verb charlar ends in AR, whereas the verbs aprender and decidir end in ER and IR. You see that these are in blue, this is in red. So the endings, if they were in the present indicative tense, they would be E, ESE, EMOS, E with an accent, IS, and then EN. But when it comes to subjunctive, all those tenses, all those endings, of the verbs that we are so used to become the endings for the verbs in AR. And then the AR endings would also go for the verbs that end in EI and IR. So there is a crisscross exchange kind of thing going on when it comes to the subjunctive mode. Okay, so charlar, we have yo charlie, charles, charlie, charlemos, charleis, and then charlen. And then for aprender, we have aprenda, aprendas, aprenda, aprendamos, aprendáis, aprendan. And then decidir, decida, decidas, decida, decidamos, decidáis, decidan. For irregular verbs, we have the first one as verbs which are irregular in the yo form of the verb while they are in the present indicative tense. So we'll see how these go. We have, for example, crecer. In the indicative is cresco. So there is a Z that comes before the C. So having taken this form of the verb in the yo form, then we take away the O, we add the endings that are not the same as the ER. So ER verbs would end in A as though they were AR verbs. So we have cresco becomes cresca, crescas, cresca, crescamos, crescais, crescan. So it goes like this. And then we have conocer, it's also conozco. So the same, you take the same conjugation of the verb in the indicative yo form, remove the O, and then you add the endings. Conozca, conozcas, conozca, conozcamos, conozcais, conozcan. We have another group of verbs that are irregular in the subjunctive. We have radical changing verbs which end in AR and ER. Now, these ones have the same changes as they do when they're in the indicative mode, except nosotros and vosotros. So we have, for example, yo pienso diferente. That's indicative. The E of pensar become IE. Now we have Raúl quiere que piense diferente. The same change that happened in the indicative is the same change that happens in the subjunctive if it is not nosotros nor vosotros. Now, es bueno que pensemos diferente. So the E in pensar whereas it changed to IE in the usted form. Here it doesn't change in the nosotros form. Second example, Felipe vuelve a las 10. Felipe comes back at 10. That's the indicative mode. We have ojalá Felipe vuelva a las 10, subjunctive. So same UE change going on over here is what goes on in the subjunctive, because this is the third person singular form of the verb. Whereas we have quiero que volváis a las 10. I want you, informal plural, to come back at 10. So this is the subjunctive and it's vosotros, so it doesn't undergo the same radical change as we would have it in the third person singular form. Now we have the third group. We have radical changing verbs that end in IR. Now these ones have the same changes as they do in the present indicative tense. Okay, so we have las formas. Nosotros, the nosotros and vosotros form will change from E to I, and then from O to U, depending on which verbs we are using. So for example, it is necessary we take a nap, but Juan wants us to serve the food. So es necesario que durmamos un poco, pero Juan quiere que sirvamos la comida. So the verb here is dormir. So O will change to U, and then we have servir, and then E will change to I, sirvamos. The fourth group, the verbs which end in CAR, GAR, and ZAR would have the same changes as though they were in the indicative mode. So we have example. Es necesario que lleguen temprano para que saquemos fotos antes de que empiece el programa. So it is necessary they arrive early so we can take pictures before the start of the event. So the verb is llegar, GARGUEN. Okay, ga, ge, gi, go, go. And then we have sacar, and then we have the other verb, empezar, empiece. The next group of irregular verbs are verbs that are completely irregular in the subjunctive. Examples: dar, which is de, des, de, demos, des, den. Estar, este, estes, este, estemos, estéis, estén. Then haber, haya, hayas, haya, hayamos, hayáis, hayan. Ir, vaya, vayas, vaya, vayamos, vayáis, vayan. Then we have saber, sepa, sepas, sepa, sepamos, sepáis, sepa. Then we have ser, sea, seas, sea, seamos, seáis, sean. Well, this brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope you have learned so much. Thank you and see you next time. Adios.